Good morning. Today we're in Nun. Our Amoud today in Yomi, in Amoud Yomi of Pesahim is Nun Vav Amoud Ben. But we're starting at Nun Vav Amoud Aleph at the bottom of the page. So here we said that there was two different versions in things that that Anshe Yericho were doing. That Chachamim were they happy with them? They weren't happy. So the first one he says Anshe Yericho were doing three things which Chachamim approved of, and three things which they didn't approve of. That's what we said. And then Rabbi Yehuda says that's not true. Nun Vav Amud Aleph at the bottom of the page. But it's not. Rabbi Yehuda said that's not true. If Chachamim approved of it, then everybody should be doing that. And those things that we listed yesterday, Chachamim, not everybody is supposed to be doing them. So Rabbi Meir comes back and says, Rabbi Yehuda comes back and says what he says, and we're going to read it again over here. Amaro Rabbi Yehuda. So first one in line is Charuv. It's about 10 lines from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 lines from the bottom. Haruv. And near the end, the last 4 words is Rabbi Yehuda. Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda. See? Im birtzon chachamim ayosin yikon adam osin ken. If it's those things what you said, everybody should be doing them. Really, the 6 things that the people, what they were doing in Yericho, the 6 things, or maybe 7 things, some are not, they're not what the Chachamim are not happy what they're doing. Hayosin, al shlosha michu b'yadam, shlosha no michu b'yadam. 3 things, Chachamim stop them, do not do this, you need to stop. And 3, they didn't protest even though they weren't happy with it. Ve'enu shel no michu. Here are the things that Chachamim said that we'll let you continue to do it. What were they? Makivin dekalim kol hayom. Like we said yesterday, on Erev Pesach, on the 14th of Pesach, on Nisan, we're not really supposed to be working. They were taking certain, branches of the male decal and putting the female decal, and they were grafting the palm tree that it should be able to give over fruits. And that shouldn't be done because you're supposed to be not working on Erev Pesach. Kochin et Shema. They would sort of rush through the Shema. They wouldn't stop between Baruch Shem Kivod. The few things we saw yesterday, what they were doing wrong. Kotzrin v'godshin lifnei Omer. Important. They were kotzer and godesh lifnei Omer. Like we explained yesterday, that the Omer is the cutoff time to eat the new, is when you're allowed to eat the old produce. Okay? So anything that in the month of Adar or before Shvat, anything that we are harvesting, you can't eat it. When are you allowed to start eating it? You have to leave it over there. You don't cut it. You let it stay in the field, and you only cut it. You only cut it in. You only cut it when you cut it. You cut it the day after Pesach, the second day of the Omer, and that allows you to continue to be able to that allows you to start eating what was harvested, what was planted before. Okay, that's what we said yesterday. And what were they doing? They were cutting it and they were piling it before the cutting of the Omer, before the bringing of the Omer offering of the Mizbech. Now, actually, we said yesterday, it's not really a problem to cut. It's not really. The problem is to be godesh, it's a derabanan, because there's no problem to cut it. The problem is to eat it. So, but if you cut it and pile it, you're very close to eating it. So they were cutting it and they were piling it, and that seems to be, according to Rabbi Yehuda, not a good thing to have been done, even though the rabbis didn't protest. Here's the ones that they told him stop. What were they? Matirin gam ziot shel hegdesh. So we said yesterday, let's say a carob tree. Carob tree is like a little stoop, a little stump. And then what happens is, every year it grows a little bit more, The people would, their father, their parents, or maybe themselves would give to the Beit HaMikdash the ownership of that stoop. And then whatever the offshoots of it would go from it, they would be eating it. And Chachamim didn't like that because they're saying that everything should be really belong to the Beit HaMikdash. You shouldn't be eating the offshoots of it, and they told him stop doing that. Another type of tree. In time of famine, what they would do is they would leave a little bit of openings inside to their farms and their fields and their gardens, and the fruits that would fall from the trees, they would allow the poor people to come and eat them. The problem is, you're not supposed to eat we're going to see fruits that fall from the tree, because if you eat fruits from falling from the tree, and we'll explain what it is, then you're going to go ahead and pluck from the tree. So we don't let you eat something that fell from the tree. But they in Yericho were allowing it. Chachamim told them stop. And last thing, nodnim peya leyerik, and they would give also peya for yerik. Yerik is vegetables. Vegetables, rot. And seemingly you don't have to give pay on those things. You don't have to give pay on vegetables. Pay on only needs to be given something, and we'll see a lot of different conditions to be able to give pay. They were giving pay on something rots. And what's the problem with that? The problem is that give whatever you want. No, because now if I own it, I have to give to the Kohen and the Levi. By making it payah, they're going to eat everything, and I think I'm exempted. And they're not giving payah, they're not giving truma and meiser. So therefore, Chachamim were not happy because they're making a loss to the Kohanim and a loss to the Levim. Everyone knows what that means? It means when I'm a farmer and I have to give what away to the Kohen 2%, to the Levi 10%, to the poor people 10%, and pay is a whole different thing. Pay is before I take what's mine, I leave a corner and the guys can go take, the poor people can go take it. If I don't have to give pay, it turns out that that's my stuff. If it's my stuff, I had to give Meiser on it. I didn't give Meiser because I gave it all away. Turns out there was never Meiser given on that corner. I'm giving only 10% of 90% of the field, not 10% of 100% of the field. So I actually cheated the Levim, so it's a big problem. So Michu biyadam, the Gemara says, Umichu biyadam. So the Gemara says, we have a problem what we just said before. Because what we're just saying now, it sounds to be that cutting the produce before the Omer seems to be a problem. It seems to be not allowed before the Omer, but I just told you it's not a problem. And Rabbi Yehuda himself will say that it's not a problem. Vatanan, anshe Yericho kotzrin lifnei haOmer, birtzon chachamim, vegodshin shel lifnei haOmer shelo birtzon chachamim. How did you just say in this Braita that cutting the Omer and piling the Omer is not good for the Chachamim according to Rabbi Yehuda? We know that there is a Braita, that's the Mishnah that says cutting is okay and piling is a problem. So the only one that says that when people were doing things that are not good, but we stopped them, we didn't stop them, is Rabbi Yehuda. Because Rabbi Yehuda said some things were good, Rabbi Meir said some things were good, some things were not good. So Rabbi Yehuda is the only one that says everything's not good, but some things we stopped you, something we didn't stop you. And who's saying that? Rabbi Yehuda. And you see over here very clearly that piling up the Omer is the problem, not cutting. Piling up the produce is the problem, not cutting the produce is the problem. Rabbi Yehuda, so we cut with permission of the Chamim. The Gemara says, and according to you, it's also a problem because it's not really 4. In other words, we said over there, if you count what it is, if we go in Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, we count there are 3 things are not good, 6 things are not good. 3 we stopped you, 3 we didn't stop you. If you count them, it sounds like 4. Kotzrin and Godshim. So it can't be that as well. Erasami mikan kitzira. So we take away kitzira. Kitzira is not a problem for Rabbi Yehuda. Just repeat that one more time. We have a Braita that says that Anshe Yericho were doing 6 things which Chachamim were not happy about. And then it counts 4. 4 which we're not happy about, but we didn't stop them. And 3 which we're not happy about, we stopped them. Kitzira is one that we were not happy about, but we didn't stop them. But we just say clearly that Kitzira is allowed. And like I told you, there's no problem. When I have new grain, new wheat, new flour, which you should be stocking up right now, because anything that's been harvested after Pesach last year, anything that was harvested after last year Pesach, the whole summer, that's stored that you're going to go buy over here, which right now many times you're going to go and you're going to buy flour which is harvested after Pesach, you're not allowed to be eating it. And especially for Sfardim, it's very machmir, and there's a small kuna. It's called chadash. So you're not allowed to be eating it. Okay, I'm not eating it, but I'm allowed to cut it. You're allowed to cut it. There's no problem to cut it. You never said I'm allowed to cut it. You can't cut from where the Beit HaMikdash takes their kolban. But in Yericho was a place where we wouldn't take the kolban from. It was an emek. It was a valley. We don't take from the valley, so you're allowed to cut it. So why are you telling me that Rabbi Yehuda says you can't cut? You're allowed to cut. The real problem is godshim. Godshim is once you cut, don't set it up to cut it, because it seems to be that if you leave it in the field without cutting it, something happens to it. But if you cut them, it seems to be preserved. But don't pile them up. Don't put them in the storehouse. Don't get them too close to the final product, because then you're very close to eating them. So the Gemara says, in fact, that's true. Rabbi Yehuda takes away kotzrin. You're allowed to cut them. You can't pile them up. That's what the Gemara says. Umatirin gam ziyot shel hekdesh. What did we say yesterday? What did you say before? That they were permitting themselves the offshoots of the hekdesh. Of charuv shel shikma. Like I told you, a little tree. They give this to the Beit HaMikdash. The tree had an offshoot. And the offshoot, they were eating it from themselves. Amru avotenu. You know why they were doing that in Yericho? They weren't. They hold the halacha. Amru avotenu. Lo yigdishu ela korot. Our parents gave to the Beit HaMikdash the stump, the first piece. Anu natir gamsiot shel hekdesh. Shel hekdesh. Then we're allowing. It's not hekdesh. Shel charuv v'shel shikma. Tell me how it says over there. Anu natir gamziot. Can you tell me what it says there, Chaim? Anu natir gamziot shel hekdesh.
So we may permit for personal use the branches.
The branches.
Of carob and sycamore trees that belong to the temple treasury.
Because they didn't give them to them. They didn't give that to the English. The offshoot, the branch that shoot what's coming out, that's not theirs. We gave the bottom part.
They eat that all this time.
Yeah, you would eat carob.
Oh, they eat that.
So imagine, you're the guy by the Beit HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash needs money. We need to renovate, we need to fix the walls, we need a lot of things, so we need money. So you can give a whole farm, of a whole field of carob tree. So your father gave the whole tree, the whole thing, but it was only this big. What did he give? He gave this. Now, but every year it grows a little bit. That's the way the carob tree grows. It's not like new fruits that come, it's like new pieces. I'm leaving till here, and this I'm cutting. The guy, let them come and take their thing. Seems to me that's what it's saying. We say that it's not a problem, the offshoot. So really, it's a machloket. So we're talking about the growths that after the original, the original donation. So meila means something is you're benefiting from the Beit HaMikdash, a property of the Beit HaMikdash. So here it says that they hold the opinion in Masechet Milah that offshoots are not off limits. Growths, branches are not, there's no milah in that. And Chachamim said, yes, there's no milah, but it's so close for comfort that we're not going to let you do it, so it's in Isur de Rabbanan. Seems to be that's how we learn the Gemara. It's in Isur de Rabbanan to take the offshoots. Yes, but you shouldn't be doing it. And they say there's no Isur de Rabbanan, complete fine. So it seems to be true. There's an opinion that says the offshoot is loud, but we put Gzera, yes or no. Chachamim said yes. And
it's cheap. It's like it's not nice. You're already donating, and you're benefiting from something you're donating.
How would they benefit from the trunks alone?
They're eating it.
I don't think it's a trunk. I think.
It says only trunks.
Huh?
It says trunks.
Yeah, and what is it?
Our forefathers consecrated only the trunks of the carrots.
Okay, so cut the trunk and make some firewood.
Yeah, but then they can benefit from the branches.
Huh?
If they cut
No
the
problem.
trunks.
So long as you didn't come get your trunk.
Right.
Come get your trunk and do what you want.
The notion is that they're already giving something. Why are you benefiting from something you're giving?
It seems to me, I'm not sure, I didn't see all the Rishonim, but it seems to me that the problem is, if I let you take the top piece, which is really yours, you're going to very maybe come to take the bottom piece. Could be Gzei Rabbanan, Isura Ika. Let's do one more thing. The Gemara says, and they would open up their fields, they would open up little entrances into the fields, the people would come and eat the fruits that fell from the from the trees on Shabbat. So what's the problem with that? Amar Ula, Amar Shimon ben Lakish. So this machloket b'shen machbedot. The Rabbanan said gazrinan shema yalev yitlosh. So you have in the palm tree, it's very interesting how it says, Rashi explains how there's different branches, and there's different branches at the top of the tree, and then different branches at the bottom of the tree. So dates fall, like we even saw that before, fall in the top, they get caught in the top branches, it's like baskets. The palm tree has like baskets that catches the dates. They can sometimes fall through there and get to the bottom. So when was it, Chachamim saying, we don't let the poor people eat the dates that fell from the tree, it's only on the top dates. On the dates that fell, that are in the upper level of the tree, in the top baskets, that we don't let them eat.
Well, we don't want them to shake the trees, is that the idea?
We don't want them to be too close for comfort. You're going to climb up, you're going to get from there. Okay, there's one nice and juicy one over here, I'll just pluck it down. If I let you take the top one, you're going to go ahead and pluck another one. That's why Chachamim were saying, no, there's no Gzera de Rabbanan. We don't put a Gzera de Rabbanan on eating a fruit that fell from taking a fruit that you might eventually pluck a fruit. Shema Yalev Yitlosh. About Beshed Ben Akifin, which is the lower level of the tree, the lower, towards the bottom of the tree. Divra kon mutar. That's how Ula explains. Everybody says mutar. It's completely mutar because then there's no problem. You're going to go up and you're going to grab something because you're only taking from the bottom. If you're going to go pick up dates on the floor, so what are you going to now climb to the tree and pluck up a date? You're not going to do that. So
it's not mukse on Shabbat.
Oh, they're going to ask you a question. Hey, that's mukse. That's not allowed. Forget about maybe you're going to pluck, you're not going to pluck. That's mukse. You know what mukse means? The halacha mukse is anything that is not available to you now, Erev Shabbat, Ben HaShemashot, is off limits on Shabbat. So therefore, the tree... Even food. Well, food, it's not food. It's attached to the tree. So something attached to the tree, you can't take it, Ben HaShemashot. Meaning, the real time we look at is between Shkia and Tzedek Ovim. Are you allowed to touch it at that moment? You're not. You can't, because maybe it's called plucking it off. So since you can't pluck it off during Ben HaShemashot, so it's off limits. It's mukse. So even if it falls on the floor, it's a mukse thing. You can't touch it.
On Shabbat, after Shabbat.
On Shabbat. Yes, it's mukse. Anything you couldn't touch before Shabbat, you can't touch it on Shabbat.
Before Shabbat, it fell before
You don't know.
Yes, it fell Shabbat, no problem. But here you see that they're falling on Shabbos. Okay, Ninu. Vikitema. I'll show you that they're not mukse. You know why they're mukse? Because maybe I would go ahead and take them. Maybe I could have allowed them to be eaten Ben HaShemashot, because I couldn't have gone and got them myself, but I could have sent my raven to go get them. Seems to be rich people, for for status and kavod, would have ravens. An orev. An orev.
A bird.
A bird, a black cruel bird.
Okay.
They would have ravens. That's what Rashi says. Rashi says the rich people would have that. The gdula, for chashivut. And since my raven could go up and get the date, ben hashemashot, because he's allowed to, it seems to be. So it's not mukse. Since my bird could go get it, so it's good for me as well. The Gemara says, Hashta muchan le'adam, lo ave muchan leklavim. That doesn't make sense. Because we know that if something is fit for a person, it's not fit for an animal. Ditnan. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, im lo hayta nevela me'erev Shabbat, asura lifi she'ena mina muchan. You know that the Archa is, let's say you have an animal, and it's a live animal. It's a live animal. Let me read what the Rashi says over here. Nevela shinda b'Shabbat. Yes, it died on Shabbos. So then what? Can you give it to your animal to eat?
No.
You're not, because it was mukse. Exactly, it was mukse before Shabbos. You could not touch that animal. You could not do anything with that animal Shabbos. So your animal cannot eat it. So if it's not valid for the person, he didn't have in mind to use this before Shabbat, so he cannot give it to his animal. So if it's not good from a man to a person, you think because your bird can eat it, your raven can eat the date, so you can eat it as well. You can eat it as well. So the dates that fall, they're off limits. Amani not true. There's a difference. Muchan adam no eve muchan leklavim. Dekon mi de dechaze leinish no maksebet nedaise. So long it's not true. What's good for you, you don't allow an animal to use it. In other words, how do we look at the usage of this animal? This animal is my cow, my chamor. It's not at all for the animals right now. So long as it's not valid for me, kol mi de dechaze leinish no makse nedate. Yeah, so long as it's my item.
It's something that you're not even
something
thinking about.
That's chazé. No, c'est bien pour moi. I could use it. Lo maximidate. I don't put it out of my mind. Muchan neorvim vemuchan neadam. Kol mi de chazé neinish. Daite ilave. So it's like this.
I understand the whole connection with the animal.
Yeah. Mukse has to be like this. I'm just trying to figure it out. Mukse is like this. Something, let's say I have a rock, okay? And this rock, Erev Shabbos, it's nothing. So I want to use it for a doorstep on Shabbos. I can't use it. I didn't have it in mind to use it on Shabbos. But if Erev Shabbos I take it and I take the doorstep, I take the rock and I say, this is my doorstep. So now it becomes a doorstep. So anything that I have in mind to be using on Shabbos, I'm allowed to continue using on Shabbos. Anything I was maximidati, I'm not touching this on Shabbos. I will not be using this on Shabbos. So then it turns out that I'm allowed to use it on Shabbos. But it depends on my state of mind before Shabbos. So here, let me read this again to be clear 100%.
Rashi explique bien dans les Orvim.
Okay, so let's read it. Let's read it together again. Let's see. So the Gemara says, okay, so what are we talking about? Let's repeat what we're talking about. Nishmat?
Alexandra Esther.
That's not bad.
בת לונה בת ישראל. Whoever can make it 9:30 at the cemetery.
That's just what we're talking about. Okay, Anshe Yericho had trees, and the dates were falling from the trees. The dates, where were they falling? They were falling on top. This is what Rabbi says. Ula says they were falling on top. And so Anshe Yericho says, no problem, you can take them. And the Chachamim said, no, if you take them from the top, you're going to pluck them down. Right. So, but says Ula, but if they would fall on the floor, everybody says you're allowed to eat them. How can you eat them? How can you go ahead and eat them? They're mukse. So long as they're on the tree, it's not yours. You don't have in mind of taking the Shabbos. So in your mind, you mentally remove it from your usage on Shabbos. That's called mukse. Mukse means it's off limits. Muksa, huksa. I'm putting it off limits. So how can you tell me if it's off limits before Shabbos, how can I eat it on Shabbos? It fell. You want to tell me, oh yeah, because since I have a bird, that the bird can go ahead and eat it on Shabbos, so I have in mind that my bird's going to eat it on Shabbos, so even if it fell, my bird can go up and eat it. He has no...
When is my bird an extension of me?
So let's read what Rashi says. Le'ovim. Huid le'ovim. V'kitem huid v'hazu b'mechubar le'ovim. Rashi says, since even when it's mechubar, very nice, now I understand it. The bird's not going to pluck it. The bird's going to go up there and peck at it. He's going to go and sit on the branch. He's going to start pecking at the date. So since it is usable to somebody, in my mind, it's not mukse, because I'm mentally planning that my bird is going to eat this on Shabbos. Read Rashi a little bit more. Sheyesh le'orvim sheyesh lo hagidilot betor beto ligdula. The guy for status wants to have a date. I can send my bird, go up there and eat from it. So in my mind, I'm not physically removing this date from usage. So when it fell, I can go ahead and eat it as well. The Gemara says that's not true. Why does it say it's not true? Because if it's good for a bird, it's not good for a person. You know how that's true? Because nevela. Let's read it again inside. Something that is good for a man is not good for an animal. Ditnan, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, im lo hayta nevela me'erev Shabbat asura. If your animal was a live, good animal, it was not nevela before Shabbos, and it became nevela on Shabbos,
Even for the klavim, it was not mina.
Exactly. You can't let the dog eat it. Why? Because it's not fit for a man, it's not fit for an animal. Since I'm not going to eat that animal on Shabbos, the animal's mukse, so even if it becomes dead on Shabbos, the animal cannot eat it. Because it was out of...
You cannot program that he's going to die during Shabbat and
You're
the
saying
killer
it's
is
a
going
soup for your animal to eat?
Absolutely right. When I have a...
Parce que tu es shvita de tes animaux.
It was still alive when
Tu peux pas programmer que cette béma elle va mourir pendant Shabbat et que ton
So let's mukse, very nice.
Since when does the... I'm gonna...
Let me ask you a question. You have a sheep. Are you allowed to touch the sheep? You're not allowed to touch the sheep. It's mukse. So since it's mukse, why is it mukse? Maybe it could die and the animal could eat on Shabbos. The sheep died. Okay, the dogs are hungry. Give let them go eat it. No. Since in my mind I'm removed from my usage this animal on Friday, I'm not allowed to touch on Shabbos, and even if it dies and it's fit for the animal, too bad. It's off limits. So you see the opposite. If it's not good for me, it's not good for my animal. That's clear. So if it's good for an animal, I can eat it. If it's good for the bird, I can eat the date. So it can't be right. So that's what it says. Muchan ne'ovim ve'muchan nadam. So now the opposite. If it's not, when a man can eat it, if it's not good for an animal, man, it's not good for an animal. If it's good for an animal, it's good for a man. No way. Amar le in.
Why no way? What's the why?
Le corbeau, il a sa volonté, non? S'il veut manger, il mange. Ils sont entraîneurs. Qu'est-ce qu'il veut? Ravens.
Can I read your English thing for 1 second?
Ravens were trained by the wealthy people to.
Do what?
The raven is the smartest bird.
Yeah? But
I got one.
Le corps ici c'est que le orel il est mechalkel.
Quoi?
Normalement le orel il a.
Alright, he doesn't.
Le corbeau, s'il a sa
But
volonté.
this is a basic thing, but what's the inyan that my animals have to have shvita on?
Of course they do.
No, I know.
You can't leave your horse on Shabbat. You can make it work.
I get it, but that I should not make them work. But if the dog wants to go eat something,
Okay, I understand what I missed. Okay, let me say it. I got
why
it.
is that?
Let me explain. The halachot of mukse is, there is a halacha of mukse that any item needs to be mentally prepared to be used on Shabbos. We really want to prevent people from touching things on Shabbos for 3 reasons. Not to make it like a weekday, not to do hotza'ah, to carry things outside, and not to use it for melacha. If I let you use a pen, you might write a pen. Okay? So anything that is not mentally prepared to be used on Shabbos is not allowed to be used. Now, what is something that's not meant to be prepared? This date is not for me. I'm not eating that date on Shabbos. It's attached to the thing, and since I can't pluck it, so it's off limits. But 1 second, I could send my bird on Shabbos to go ahead and take a snack over there. And by the way, it was like a symbol of kavod. A rich guy would have a trained raven. Go get me this, go do over there. Send the Yonah to get the olive, let's send the raven. So since I have in mind to send the raven to go eat that date on Shabbos, and I had that in mind maybe before Shabbos, so it's good for the raven, it's good for me. The Gemara says that's not true, because your intent has to be specific. The intent that you want to use it for has to be specific for the usage.
Like a specific date?
No, specific usage. So when it's going to be used for the bird, it's not going to be good for the person. And where do we know that from? If you have a piece of meat, and this is the way I understand it now. You have a piece of meat. It's a good kosher piece of meat. Okay, it's meant for your human consumption. Seems to me like it's saying over here. Maybe I'm making a mistake, but it seems like it's saying if it becomes taref Now we make it taref. The whole thing becomes taref.
Okay.
You can't eat anymore. Now we have this piece of meat that's meant for human consumption.
Okay.
But now you pour some pig sauce on it, it's inside, you can't eat anymore. You can't give it to the animal. Because since it wasn't meant to be for animal consumption, it's mukse for the animal and mutter for the person. So if it's mutter for the person, it's no good for the animal, God. If it's good for the animal, it's not good for me. If what's good for me is not good for the animal, what's good for the animal, the raven, is not good for me as well.
Are we talking about just a Jew, or you? Doesn't matter. If
Doesn't matter.
Because what if you mix something like pork? Right, it's not kosher. It's not good for you. But it would be good for a goy.
Maybe that's a good question. So the Gemara answers. Chaim, you with me? Yeah. So the Gemara answers.
Since when does mukse apply to the animal? So you can't make your animals work on Shabbat, or mukse applies to the animal?
So Muksa has still has to do
It's
with
of
you.
the shlichut of the man. He's sending the.
Okay, alright.
Muksa doesn't have to do with the animal.
Okay.
It depends on your mental preparation of the item.
Right.
Non, mais regarde le Rashi aussi, le diouk, c'est que lui les envoie.
Uh-huh.
Lui, il envoie leur vie.
Alors, mais tu comprends que you understand that he has in mind before Shabbos that this date could be eaten by his animal on Shabbos.
Right, okay.
Still, it's enough of a
Animal's
preparation.
an agent. He's an agent.
It's
of the-
enough of the date to be ready seemingly for the animal, but not enough for the person the Gemara proposes. How do we know that from? If you have a piece of meat, it's for you, and it becomes non-edible, you can't give it to the animal because your mental preparation was only for the human consumption, not for the animal consumption. The Gemara says it's not true. So the Gemara says, "In muchan adam lo ave muchan klavim." Actually, it's true what I was saying. It is still. It's the opposite doesn't work. What's good for me is not good for the animal. The kol midi dechaz inish no mekatze min midate. Muchan neovim ave muchan adam. Kol midi dechaz inishe datia ilave. I'm reading it again. In muchan adam lo ave muchan klavim. The kol midi dechaz inish lo mekatze le midate. Muchan neovim ave muchan adam. So what's good for me is good for. Here's how it works. Since I could eat the date, I'm stuck here. I need to read this. Look it up.
An object prepared for ravens is considered prepared for human consumption.
Why?
Precisely because one's mind is on using any item that is suitable for a human.
Again? Read again.
It says,
Which number are you reading?
"Mukhan le'ovin havin mukhan adam." However, an object prepared for ravens is considered prepared for human consumption. Kol mideh dachazi le'inush da'ateh ilaveh. That's the one. Precisely because one's mind is on using any item that is suitable for a human. And then the commentary says, and thus the dates.
Which
that were
number?
19.
Okay.
And thus the dates that were suitable for ravens were also designated at the onset of Shabbat.
Should they later
consumption.
fall? Got it.
Should they later fall?
But for the dog, but tell me for the dog.
Nevela, you can eat.
I'm just going to read it here. Hashte mukhan adam lo ave mukhan klavim. Tisnan, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, im hayta nevela, lo hayta nevela me'erev Shabbat, asura. If the animal was not already a carcass on Shabbos Eve, it is prohibited to be cut up on Shabbos. If she'enan min mukhan, it's not something that was prepared for the dog usage. I'll read here. Rabbi Yehuda maintains that the animal must be prepared for a particular use. Since in this case the animal was prepared at the beginning of Shabbos for human consumption and not for ultimate use of human food, of dog food, it must be considered mukse. However, muchan neovin ave muchan adam. It's a question. Now, if it's good for the raven, it's good for the person. Obviously not. And the Gemara says, "Amaruna in muchan adam ave muchan klavim." If it's good for the person, it's good for the dog. In muchan neavim lo ave muchan klavim. Got it. If it's good for me, I'm not giving it to the dog. The kol mi de dechazin inishin lo maksenid midate. I got it. I was missed on that word. Whatever's good for me, I'm not separating from my mind to be allowed to be used by anything else for the animals. Muchan neovin be muchan adam. But for good for the animal, I'm also having myself in mind. It's like this. You have a nice piece of steak. You're going to give it to your animal? It's mine.
Right.
But the date, you have good dates. And your raven eats dates. You also eat dates. I just gave a date. I just had a date. You also eat dates. So in your mind, you're having in mind, I'm going to eat dates and the animal's going to eat dates. So it's not a problem. There's no problem with muktzah over here. Because I'm having in mind that if I say, if this fruit will fall on Shabbos and fall on the floor, I'm going to eat it. I have it in mind from the get-go since I'm also sending my animal. Since I'm thinking about it before Shabbos, my animal's going to eat it. I'm having it in mind myself as well. So basically, when it comes to a dead animal, I didn't have in mind that all this should be for that. I'm never giving away this animal. It's going to be only mine. I don't have in mind the animal. But the date, I have in mind myself, and I have in mind inside the raven, so it's actually allowed. So the Gemara says, Lo v'im chanadam. Ve'anshe Yericho, Kiat Ravim, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Akish, Machloket b'shet ben Akifin. So really, when Resh Lakish came, when Rabbi said, he said, the Machloket is well on the floor, when the dates are on the floor. The Rabbanan Sabri Muchan Ne'ovim, Lo v'im Muchan Ne'adam. So according to Rabbanan, whatever is good for the animal is not good for the man. This is the sword there. Whatever is good for the animal, I could also have myself in mind. But anything that's above, everybody says it's also. So therefore, it's two ways of looking at that. So bottom line, what happens in Yericho? They were eating dates. What dates were they eating? That's a question. One version is they were eating the dates on the floor. That's it. And Chachamim said you can't eat the dates on the floor because they're muktzeh. And they were saying they're not muktzeh. I'm having in mind that they might fall. And they're saying you don't have in mind they fall, it's muktzeh. But everything that's above, according to Resh Lakish, is asur. Because if you take one that fell on Shabbos, but you go take it above, you might pluck it down. The other way of looking at it is that everybody says it's not muktzeh. There's no problem muktzeh. So on the floor, everybody says you're allowed to eat it. The problem is the ones that are high above, you might go ahead and pluck them. If you take them, that's where the machloket was. Two-way machloket. Let's let it last a little stretch. Notnim pe'ad erek. So what were they doing? They were giving vegetables as payah. The problem is this: don't they know the Braita? The Braita says that here's a rule with payah: kol shu ochen menishmar, anything that's food, and people guard it. They don't want people to take them. You know, if you have scarecrows, you don't want people to go in your field and take your pumpkins and take your fruits. You're careful that no weasels and stealers are going to come take your vegetables. If it's not a vegetable that you care about, anybody who wants can go take it. There's no payah to give on that. We'll see what it means. It needs to be growing from the ground. The harvest is once a year, not an ongoing harvest. We'll see in a second. And you storage. You can store them. Things that are not stored will not have a chayav piyah. Chayav b'peyah. Kol shu ochen, what does it mean? So let's go back in that whole Braita, that whole Mishnah. What is ochen? Kol shu ochen prat nesifiche sitim b'kotza. These are called offshoots. What's that called over there? Offshoots, or meaning when you don't plant something on its own, it just, seeds fall and it grows on its own. These are two types of vegetables, funny columns of vegetables. One is called sitim and kutza. These are not edible. They're actually very harmful. So this is not food. You don't have to get pay on these things, even though they're a type of grain. V'nishmar. What does it mean, nishmar? Perat lehefker. So something that is, the guy made this whole field hefker. You have apples growing in the wilderness over here. You don't have to do pay on that. You can go ahead and take it. There's no pay to give. It's nobody's. It's not owned by anybody. Gidulo min haaretz. It needs to grow from the ground. Perat lekmihin upitriot. To the exclusion of mushrooms. Mushrooms are not grown from the ground. Sure. So you don't have to give truffles. Truffles and mushrooms, you don't need to give payah because they don't grow from the ground. Dates. The dates, it's not 1 year. One date grows, another one comes out. Fig. Fig grows, another one comes out. A fig, like from the fig tree, it's always giving off. It's not one season. There's always on the tree, big ones, small ones, and you got to keep coming back and taking them. So it's not one harvest. You don't give payah on that. And this is what we're looking for. And you store them. You store wheat. You store barley. You store oats. Prat le yerek. You do not store yerek. Vegetables, you don't store it. It rots. So you don't need to give payah. So why in the world were Anshe Yericho giving payah on the vegetables?
It's a loophole. It's a loophole that they were trying to do. It's a loophole, basically.
That's not a loophole. It's
they tried to
do a loophole to not give meiser. So answer is we're talking about pickled turnips. A turnip has a little bit of like a leaf on it, right, on the top, and the leaf could be eaten. Now, you take the whole turnip and you put it in vinegar. That's how they used to keep vegetables. How do you keep a vegetable long term? You keep vegetable long term by pickling it. So since a turnip could be pickled, a turnip, it's like purple. What's it called? An ave? So if you take an ave, a turnip, and you pickle it, you marinate, you put it in liquid to preserve it. So now it has payah. There's payah to give on it. Now they were putting the whole thing inside. They were putting it because now it's something that you store. Now, what about the leaves on top of it, around it? So you can actually pickle those leaves and eat them as well. So it's a pickled leaf. So how do we look at the leaf? Do we look at it as a regular vegetable that rots? Or do we look at it an item that's preserved for long term? That was the machloket. We're only talking about that. They were giving those leaves, those turnips, they were giving a payah on those things. Since you could pickle it, really it should have payah. But the leaf, you shouldn't have payah. The whole machloket was on the leaf. What are you doing on the leaf? They were giving leaf, but then they were not giving the meiser on the leaf. So do you say that it's something that's stored and you don't need to give meiser, or it's something that's not stored? Well, how do we look at it? So the Gemara says, din payah lelefet ulekeruv. Sorry, I missed a skip line. I read it again. Amar Yehuda, Amar Rab, Acha berashe liftot askinan, umachniso likiyum. We would store them ad yedei dvar acher. We would like pickle them. Kami plege masavar machniso likiyum ad dvar acher shemei kiyum. So how do we call it that? This whole turnip over here that you're able to pickle it, is that called that it's something that you store? It's like wheat and you can give pay on it. Pickling something that's not storage. You store wheat, you store barley, you store to pickle an item. Is that called you're saving it so you can give pay on it, or is it considered that it's not and you have to give meiser on it? That was the machloki between them. That's why Yecho was doing what doing. The Chavnim told him to stop. We'll stop here. Chazak.